Minnesota Vikings are coming out of their bye week to face the Arizona Cardinals next on the schedule. They're 5-1 to start the season. A clear path to the NFC North Championship and the playoffs exists. And the NFL trade deadline is right around the corner. It is rapidly approaching. There have been rumors and speculations swirling around on social media regarding the Minnesota Vikings potentially being active and buyers at the trade deadline this year. So let's have that conversation right now. Let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings, the potential for them to make a trade. What would they go after? What position groups are in need of an upgrade? And whether or not they should do this at all. Let me know what you think. Should they actively pursue some more talent to add to this roster to make a playoff run for the rest of the season? Or should they hold what they've got, keep a hold of that draft capital, and continue to build into next year? Because you could argue both sides of this. There are some positions that I think we could use some help. And you could also say, well, one or two players might not make all the difference in the world for them to reach the ultimate goal of getting to a Super Bowl. But at least for as far as the Vikings are concerned right now, a clear path to the playoffs exists. So maybe they're looking for just a little bit of help to get over that hump. Now, let's talk about the position groups that the Minnesota Vikings could potentially be targeting in the trade block this year. I think the rumors started out with them potentially looking for tight end. And I know Mike Gesicki's name has been dropped a couple of times in the past few weeks. And I have to be honest, I don't understand that one. I think Irv Smith Jr. is fine. I think Johnny Munt is okay. He's just a guy. I don't see what the point is in upgrading the tight end position, especially trying to target a tight end who is currently on a winning team that looks like they're going to be in the playoffs in some form, one way or another. I'm not sure why the Dolphins would be willing to give up that asset right now in their current state. And I really don't see the fit for Mike Gesicki in the Minnesota Vikings offense, where if we remember correctly at the beginning of the season or right before the season, or even during the beginning portion of the season, where there were some rumblings about him being unhappy with his role in that offense, where they were using him more as a blocking tight end as opposed to receiving tight end. He's going to come over to the Minnesota Vikings with the same problems, where he is faced with an offense that wants to run through Justin Jefferson. So I don't see that one happening. I don't understand where that one comes from, and I basically don't get it. So anybody who wants to trade for a tight end, whether or not it's Mike Gesicki, is going to have to sell me very hard on that potential possibility. I don't think that one is reality whatsoever. My executive producer chimes in and agrees with me that the tight end position is off the table. Moving on. The next position that is getting a lot of discussion on social media regarding whether or not the Minnesota Vikings made a trade is wide receiver. And this one I can see more arguments for than against, because as we have stated, the offense this year runs through Justin Jefferson, and that's what we all want. The problem, I think, has been when Justin Jefferson is being covered, nobody else is really stepping up to the plate. And I'm not sure what to make of Adam Thielen this year. I don't know if his decline in production has to do with age, has to do with his physical gifts leaving him. I don't know if it just has to do with the way that the offense is now different and maybe his role has just changed. I'm not 100% sure. Either way, it's not the same level of production that we've seen from Adam Thielen over the past, few years of his career. And it's not what we expected at all. We expected him to continue to be a red zone threat. Maybe he wasn't going to, keep up the production of getting 100 yards nearly every damn game. But I just haven't seen the same player in Adam Thielen this year, and I don't know what to make of that. And then KJ Osborne, as much of a nice surprise as he was last year, I think we could all agree that we weren't going to see sustained production from him going forward. So Jalen Reagor, they traded for him in the offseason. He was meant to be more of a return specialist as opposed to a legitimate threat in the wide receiver core. I could see an argument to be made for this. I could see an argument to get Justin Jefferson some help, to take a little bit of the coverage and a little bit of the pressure off of him, and to get the opposing defenses to move their eyes elsewhere. So who would they target? So I think a lot of the rumors surrounding the wide receiver position for the Minnesota Vikings has been surrounding guys who can stretch the field. I've heard the name KJ Hamler dropped. I've heard Jerry Jeudy. We could use this tweet here from Darren Wolfson as a point of departure to discuss Jerry Jeudy, who, in my personal opinion, I want nothing to do with. I don't see that as a possibility. KJ Hamler's kind of interesting, somebody with enough speed to stretch the field. What about Brandon Cooks? That probably could be a potential possibility, because he has some tweets that he's posted that sounds like he could potentially be on his way out of Houston as that team continues to look to rebuild. My executive producer is chiming in once again, and he does not like the idea of Brandon Cooks being traded to the Vikings. Moving on to the next position, the cornerback position, or just secondary in general. Losing Lewis Cine for the rest of the year hurt them more than I think that they would like to admit, because as you can see by this tweet here, the passer ratings against some of our secondary players is kind of bad. When you look at Cam Dantzler, when you look at Patrick Peterson, it just seems like we could use some help in the secondary, Chandon Sullivan, to be more aggressive on defense. And while we continue to employ the bend but don't break, philosophy that the defense has been successful with, 5-1, you can't argue against it right now. We could stand to see some improvement. So who would you trade for at the cornerback position? Right now, I can't think of too many names that could potentially be on the trading block, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that's going to bring this all crashing down back to earth. Minnesota Vikings are basically dead last in current available salary cap. I don't know how they would be able to afford any of this. So maybe all of this is just fan speculation and nothing more. This could just be Twitter nonsense, and that's the end of it. Because if the real simplistics of this is that the salary cap is what stands in their way. And it's not a limitation by any means. It's more of a puzzle, as somebody eloquently put it on social media today that I don't remember who said that, and I can't give them proper credit. But it's more of a puzzle than it is a limitation. They just need to figure out a workaround in order to be able to afford what they want and need. At this juncture, I don't know if they'd be willing to do it. I really don't. So we'll have to see how things play out, especially once the Cardinals game comes to a conclusion. If they're sitting at 6-1 and everything is just working peachy keen for them, they might just hold their cards and stay put for the rest of the season. In my opinion, if they could afford it, if the salary cap was not an issue, I think that they should make a couple of trades to more solidify this offense. Because while a playoff picture, or a playoff berth, does exist for this team, it's theirs for the taking. They control their own destiny. I think that if they wanted to go further than just one playoff win this year, which seems to be what we've been stuck with in the past, is that they need to make a couple of adjustments and some acquisitions to better this roster in order to be able to compete to the super good teams that lie in wait. We're going to have, if you want to go to the Super Bowl, you've got to play the 49ers again. You got to play the Eagles again. You're probably going to run into the Cowboys, as we're going to do this year. And if you get to the Super Bowl, odds are you're playing the Bills or the Chiefs. So if you don't want to get punched in the mouth in the playoffs, you probably need to make a trade or two. That's going to do it for me in this video, and my executive producer helping me out today. Let me know what you think in the comments below about the Minnesota Vikings, their current state of the roster, and what trades you would or would not make once the NFL deadline approaches. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.